Hello everyone, I hope you're well. I hope you've had a good Christmas Day and Boxing Day. Thank you all for your cards, to those of you that sent me cards. Thank you so much. I only opened them on Christmas Day, so that was lovely, so thank you very much. I thought I'd pop by and we'd create a journal page. I've actually spent, before I started the video, I've actually spent 15 minutes just looking through my journal. Oh, it's a joy just to look through previous pages. I love it. I absolutely love looking through the pages before. Actually, we could do that one because it's purple. There we go. So I'm going to start on a fresh page. So let's open that out. The one advantage of the Pink Pig journal is I can just open that out as I wish, and that doesn't affect the pages underneath. Let's grab some low tack tape. Now, I actually want a thinner one. I haven't got a thinner. Look at that, it's got a bit of purple on, doesn't matter. I've got this, I think this was washi tape, but it's quite sticky. So I'm just going to add it to my clothes a bit, just to de-tack it, because it's very sticky. So I'm then going to add the low tack tape or your washi tape. If you're using washi tape, you need to de-tack it. Some of them are very stringy, sticky, if that makes sense. So I'm just placing this on my clothes just to de-tack that a little bit. Probably not a good idea like me if you've got dogs and you've had them on your knee, but hey ho, it's all part of it, it's texture. So and you can see I'm not measuring this out. Life's too short. I'm not measuring precisely. I just want to have a bit of fun. So no measurements here, I'm afraid. So let's just de-tack this again with some of my trousers. So you can see now, I can just move, that's it, it's de-tacked nicely. I can move it up a bit because I'm not measuring. So let's have that there. Not even cut this one, which is not really handy, is it? And let's have this one here, like so. So let's just, you can see I'm just thinking to myself, and the old clock, the old brain is ticking over. So I'll just keep pulling this off until I get it quite right. Ish. So then we will have that one. Around about there. It'll do. It's just a page. Come on, Tracy. So I'm just masking this off. And it's definitely working by de-tacking the washi tape on my trousers, like you do, because I'm such a professional. Let's just put that one there and de-tack another one. Because when you've added your paint, etc., you then don't want to end up tearing your page. If you do tear your page, don't stress too much. Just put a bit of paint or texture over it. It's not a problem. So there we go. So I'm just making a background, really. There you go. So it's all de-tacked quite nicely. Let's move those out of the way. I've got my brayer and I've actually washed my brayer. So I just soaked that in fairy liquid, just gave it a little rub and it all just peeled away. I do leave it for quite a few hours to soak, I must admit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use blackberry. So let's take a little bit of blackberry. I can move my non-stick craft sheet actually. Let me just see if I can move my camera just a little bit. There we go. So you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to make sure I've got a couple of wipes out. And let's grab a piece of 4 by 6 inch card. I have actually got, have I got it up here? I don't think I've got it up here. Let me see if I have. I don't think I have, because Lucy's got me some palette paper, artist palette paper, but I opened them downstairs. That's typical. So I'll have this piece of 4x6 so that I can create another background. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my blackberry. So let's take a little bit of the blackberry. And what I'm going to try and do is not add too much paint. And can you see I'm braying that out? So I'm going to bray paint, and then I'm going to bray any excess onto my card. And now from that first layer of paint, you can see I don't actually need that much, so I can use less. There we go. And if you've got little bits of paint on, just go over and pick up some more, and you'll have some lighter areas on your non-stick craft sheet. I'm then going to just clean this, just so that it's not too heavy on that dark colour. Just so that we do get the difference in colour. I'm then going to use a little bit of fuchsia. So let's take a little bit of fuchsia. Now we know that I don't need much. I've obviously had these containers open at some point. Put your lid on your containers so the air doesn't get to them. And you can see I've got a little bit of paint this time. So that's much better. Maybe don't add as much paint as I added the first time. Now, if you want to add more paint, bring this down, Tracy. Let's bring this down. Can you see here? If you wanted to add more paint, you can either use your fingers, but then if that's not organic enough, I mean, you can actually take these pages out, but I'm just going to be honest, I can't be bothered with that, I'm afraid. So if you want to take a bit of the colour again, so I've got blackberry, I'm just going to take an old credit card, and then I can just add a little bit with that card, just so it's a little bit more organic, because if I do it with my fingers it's going to be too solid. So let's take a little bit of the fuchsia. There we go. And you can see I'm only working with small amounts of paint, and it just means that I'm just picking this up. So when you use the credit card, obviously you get a slightly thicker layer of paint. You get a lighter layer of paint with your brayer. So I'm just cleaning up. Not because there isn't much paint on there, so I can't add it to my 4x6, so there's not much paint on that. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to use a light colour, and I always find a light colour sort of softens everything as well. So I'm using lavender, so let's take a little bit of lavender. So it's just a sort of a dollop. I'm going to take a dollop of the lavender, and I can just, the lavender will just soften everything. So I can pick up some of this lavender and I can add that to my piece of card, because I'll then have a lovely background that I can create another project with. And don't worry about your desk too much, that's not a problem. So don't forget, this isn't low-tack tape I'm using. If it was low-tack tape, your paint would wipe off, but this is sort of, this might be a, excuse me, Adina, Wakely washi tape or something that I've had in the drawer. I just found it, so there you go. It is what it is. I'm then going to take a little tiny bit of turquoise. Now my turquoise is well used, but I don't give up on the pots because it's surprising how much is in there. As you can see, there's loads in there, but I still don't give up on them. I may be pushing my luck with this one. Yes, I might be pushing my luck with that one, so we'll remember to put that in the bin. Let's try this turquoise one. Can you tell turquoise is a colour I use quite a lot? Oh, good grief, Tracy, why'd you leave the lids open? It's because, the reason is I get engrossed with what I'm creating, and then I'll leave the lids off, then I go and do something else, honestly. So then the air gets to it, so let's see if that'll do it. I'm doing well. My paint must be, oh, there's so many years old because, well, I used these paints, these exact paints at workshops, and I didn't do workshops. I did workshops. The last time I did online, sort of on-site workshops was before COVID. So you can see how long ago that was. So let's take the turquoise. Now I'm going to braid this out quite a bit. And what I'm going to do is just use a light touch. So a very light touch. Gently, gently, gently does it. So you're just gently going over there. You're hardly holding your brayer. So if you're not sure, just hold it very lightly and it'll stop you pressing too hard. Then I'm going to add a little bit of the excess just to my 4x6. Then I'm just going to mop up the dry paint. Now you want to make sure that you're quite happy with what you've done before you actually lift the blow-tack tape up. So you just need to be mindful of that. So I'm then going to take a little touch more of eggplant. Again, you can see the small amounts of paint I'm using, and look how much it sort of spreads out. So again, it's all about layers. So it's all about me adding layers of the paint. So let's put the excess onto this card. And then we'll use a little bit of fuchsia again. Let's just get that lump off there. And it's lovely because you don't have to rush. So let's just... So then I'm just going to mop this up. As you can see, my wipe is now getting saturated with colour. But clean up is very easy, really easy. So I've got some dark layers of colour on there now. And then I'm going to go back to the lavender. So now your lavender sort of brings back a little bit of the lightness again. Now you can actually add more of the lavender if you wish. So I can go in and add a little bit more of the lavender. Now don't forget, we're going to have these areas lifted up, so there will be some open areas in there. Let's put some of this lavender on here. Now look how that looks with the lavender. Doesn't that look yummy? Yummy, yummy, yummy. So then we'll take a tiny bit of the turquoise. So a little bit of the turquoise. Now look how much I roll it out. Now hold this very limp, and then it'll stop you. I mean, I'm used to the pressure. If you're not used to the pressure, hold your brayer very limply and it'll just give you the look that you're looking for, because you don't want big clumps. Look if I can get big clumps out of my turquoise. So pick up the colour, brayer it out, and then hold this very limp. If you can't get used to the pressure. I'm used to the pressure. I know how much pressure I need to put on, and it works quite well. Look at the piece, just wonderful. So now let's lift all this up. She says confidently. There we go. Let's just move that out of the way the minute. I just want to do a little bit of a clean up, because I do like to work in a clean area, particularly if I'm going to have another colour or a contrast. So I do like to sort of give the area, let's move that out of the way, a really good clean before I start on the next one. Now make sure your lids are sort of closed, particularly if, like me, you've got the heating on, which I have. Let's move that out of the way. Now, I'm going to grab my paints. Where are you? So I'm going to grab my Starry Colours, Gansai Tambi 6 colours. And then I'm going to grab, have I got sort of, where are you? It's remembering where everything is, you know, since you've tidied up after Christmas. And trust me, I can't. There we are. So I want to use this stencil here. So I'm going to take the Distressed Backgrounds stencil. Now I don't want to add too much. So which gold are you going to use, Tracy? I think a red gold, you think? Or yellow gold, blue gold? No, let's use the blue gold. So I'm just going to spritz that with a little bit of water. And then I'm just going to see, I don't know whether I've got a little bit of sponge, or it might have to be a wipe. Just bear with me. I've got some cotton dry foam. This is no longer available, it's discontinued, which is such a shame, because I used to use cotton dry foam a lot. But all you need is a piece of sponge. That can be your kitchen sponge, you know, just the spongy area. It can be a car sponge, it can be a bath sponge, any sponge you want. So don't stress about it too much. And then I'm going to take, now it's quite watery, so I'm going to take, let's just, there we go. Now you need to, can you see how watery this is? Look, it's soaking into there. It's going into my nail as well, which will be lovely. I'll have lovely gold nails. So let's pick some of that paint up. And what I'm going to do, let's add a little bit more water to that. Let's grab a paintbrush. This one will be fine. And let's just mix that up so we've got some of that lovely. Now this is watercolour, don't forget. But these Gansai Tambay are so pigmented. They're just yummy. Let's just wipe that on there. And I do tend to be the kind of person that I don't work in too much mess, if that makes sense for you. So this is quite wet now because you're picking up a watercolour. And what I'm going to do, just squeeze out a little bit of the moisture. And then I'm going to hold it very lightly. And I'm just going to dab. You're not adding too much, you're just adding little bits here and there. You can even paint it in if you wish. It's not a problem, you can paint that in. Don't press too hard, you hardly have to touch anything, but you're just adding these touches of gold. Try not to get knotted up with this tape. There we go. So I'm just adding little touches of this gold. So you can see I've done it that way. But you can also, if you want, so let's take, you can dab your stencil with the gold. So you've got the gold on there, and then you can just press the gold onto your background. Don't be frightened of experimenting a little bit. Oh yes, I love that. Absolutely. You see, by experimenting, so I'm taking the gold. I'm going to lift this up so you can see. So I've now got the gold on there. I'm not adding water. Let's move that out of the way. Place that on there. And just dab your kitchen towel, just so that it makes good contact with that. And I love this. Absolutely love this, because it's a touch but not too much, if that makes sense. So let's just add a little bit of that gold, and whatever sponge you use, you can just wash it out. So let's add some here because I'm addicted to it now. So just dab, just giving that a little bit of time on there. And we'll do it again. And you can see I haven't had to go in and add any more paint really. Let's add one down here. So just the kitchen roll you're adding, and I will lift this up just so that you can see this. She says. Just, can you see them touches of gold with the little bit of the diamond? Can you see them? Just perfect, because it's just little touches of the gold, and you can come back in because you've got so much on there. You can even pick a little bit more up, and if you want to add more, say you want to add, so you've got quite a dark area. So I've got a dark area up here. Let's add some to there. There we go. Just lovely. I absolutely adore that. Let's just add. Where are you going to add another one? Let's add a little bit there. So I can go in and I can just add touches of the gold. I know I'm at the bottom of the camera there, but I will lift this up so you can see it. There we go. So let's give the stencil a little bit of a wipe. One of a disadvantage of Tracy adding distressed bits is my wipe gets stuck to the distressed bits, but it's just what I love. So let's pick that up, just leave that there. Okay. And then let's take, oh, it's not very dry, Tracy. There we go. You can even, if you want to, you can even go around the edges just with your bit of sponge, and you can add, now you can tell I'm playing, you can go in and just add little touches of gold if you wish, but now you can see I'm really playing. So it's entirely up to you how much you develop your page. So I've not wasted a thing there. I just keep knocking everything over. What I would say is look at your hands at this stage and just see if they're clean. So I've got a little bit of turquoise paint on there. Just make sure they're clean so that you don't affect your project. So what I want you to do now is just grab your heat tool. She says confidently. There's that many wires down here. Let's move the iPad one. And then I want you to give this a dry. So give your page a dry. Now, I've got, you can have 10% off your basket until the 31st of December with the code December10, all capitals, DEC 10. And there's also 50% off workshops with the code Workshop50. Workshop 50 ends on the 28th. But the 10% off your basket ends December the 31st. In fact, I nearly sang that then, December the 31st. Instead of December the 25th, you can tell I've been watching Scrooge. December the 25th. I'll put that in my head now. There we go. So now I've created my background. So let's, which ones did I put on last? I think it was these ones, wasn't I? Now, I can still feel there's a little bit of, how would you explain this? Which ones did I do last? Was it these ones? I can still feel on my washi tape, because I hadn't got low tack tape, that there's still quite a bit of, you know, you've really got to sort of pull a bit now I've added the paints. So just be mindful if you're using washi tape. It's not as good as low tack tape, but when it's all you've got, there's nothing I can do. But if you can save the washi tapes, you do end up with, look at this. Let me try and straighten that out. Look at that washi tape. You've created your own, let me put this down now. You've created your own washi tape. There you go, can you see? You've created your own washi tape now that you could use on this. That washi tape is gorgeous now. Absolutely stunning. So just take this away. Can you see? I'm sort of pulling it towards me with a slight tilt on that. And I'm going to hold this up for you when I've removed it. There we go. Now, let me just try and not ruin this. Which is not easy because it's all sort of rolled on itself. There we go. Let me just straighten it out a little bit just so then I can lift it up. There we go. And lift it up. look at this. You've now created your own washi tape, which I will use on this card here. See, you don't waste anything. So take this off. Can you see I'm sort of tilting it slightly just to remove that? Now you can see all those dark layers don't matter. But look at this. I've got my own washi tapes now. Oh, just gorgeous. They are just stunning. Hold on to that, Tracy. There we go. I've got all these magnificent washi tapes now. And I still think colours like this are so much better than computer generated colours. It's just, perhaps it's just me. Put that there. Look at them. Let me see if I can lift these up. There we go. Look at them. How wonderful are they? Oh, yummy. Right, so we'll place that back. And then I'm just going to lift my page up. And something that you thought was quite dark, now you've got these white areas. Doesn't that look lovely? How good. Look at them diamonds. Yum, yum, yum. Just glorious. So I've got my page now that I've decorated. And if you wanted to, you could leave it there quite easily and just put a word on it. I mean, it's lovely in its own right. It's just gorgeous. But I want to add a floral. So I'm going to grab a floral. And I know which one I want. I'm hoping it's quite a bold. There it is. I want quite a bold floral. So this from Nature Feeds the Soul TE48 is just perfect. So let's use that. I mean, look at the size of that floral. It is a magnificent floral. Just magnificent. It really is. It's just, well, I know I'm biased, but I just think that's amazing. And look at that. So let's move this out of the way. Put that acetate back in there. Bring in your acetate. And can you see, you can have your floral wherever you want. Tracy can't make a mind. It might be there, not, it might be there. Nobody knows. But you've got this magnificent floral that will really stand proud on that page. Just wonderful. So I'm going to stamp this onto some white card. You could quite easily stamp it onto here. And then I could add some blue, couldn't I? You see, I've now got this piece that I've braided off, and I'm going to, the thing is, obviously you have to remember, if you stamp onto acrylic paints, you and me both know that that is going to need drying. Or will I want a white edge? You're going to want, no, I think I'm going to put it on white card because I might want a white edge. Not that I'm very fussy, but that's me all over, because I might want a white edge. And I've got this tape I can use as well. Now, if you've used low tack tape and you've got these patterns on and you haven't wiped them off, or you've even got touches of colour, that's perfect. Just put some matte medium over the top, just so that it's protected and it won't move. You could use masking tape if you want to create your own washi tape. You could use the masking tape because the paint will go straight over the top. I'm using my black Nocturne ink. Now what we're going to do is do the black first. Let's just add that. Now you can see, again, I'm in experimentation mode. Let's just give that a little bit of time. Now this is a large floral, so you can't just plonk it down and lift it up within 2 seconds. You need to give that a little bit of time just to absorb on there. And I've got, my thumb hurts because I fell over because of a drip. So you don't have to press hard. You can just leave your hand on there and just press very gently, just so that you get a good impression. Now that's the black, lovely and bold. And then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to wipe some of the black off. You know I don't normally clean my stamp, but I'm just doing it this time because I'm going to try it. Now have I got that colour? You watch, I'll have done this and I won't have the colour. I know I've got it in the shop, but you watch me not have it. It's so funny. Oh, I have. I've got Monarch, which I've also got in the shop. And then I can decide whether I want to do it in the black or whether I want to do the purple. So let's take the Monarch. And I think it's going to be the purple because instantly the Monarch is just gorgeous. Couldn't be without my VersaFine Clairs. I just love them. Obviously you could have 2 layers to your floral if you wished. I don't think this needs it because it's such a bold floral. It really doesn't need it. I'm just giving that a little bit of time just to make an impression on there. So it really just comes down to patience, really. Yes, we're going to use the Monarch, and I can leave a white border as well. So I'm just going to give that a little dry. There we go. And then I'm going to colour that. So I need a fine brush, not that one. So I've still got this now. I can create another card out of. Where's my fine brushes? I've got that many fine brushes. I've got Nick Pro. I've got the tiny brush. No idea what these are, just from Amazon. But I just want a thin brush. I've also got my Nick Pro ones, which are nice as well. How long can you faff deciding on a brush? Well, you'll be surprised. Just any fine brush will be fine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some turquoise. So let's take... Oh, come on, you've just squeezed out. No problem at all. Oh, you can't make it up, can you? Oh. So let's, there we go. It's a good job I've got this little needle on the side. There we go. So I've got my fine brush. Let's move everything out of the way so we don't go and ruin everything we've done. I'm not bothered about the black. Mind you, I could put the black one on that card. Little bit of water because these are sort of quite heavy body, sort of quite thick, rich paints. So I just have a little bit of water just so that I can blend those So I'm going to take a little bit of the turquoise. Now with paints, I don't tend to do a large area. I don't race too far forward. So I'm going to pick up the lavender and just blend the lavender out from the blue. So I've got the lavender and I've added the turquoise as well. I'm just going to pick up that lavender again and just blend out with a little bit of the lavender. Do I want... This is where I question myself. No, I do want turquoise, to be honest, because that's what I want to use is the colour that's least on there, which is the turquoise. So I want to use that. So I'm just blending that out with the lavender. So I'm using the lavender just to blend that out. So I'll pick up the turquoise. The reason I don't go too far ahead with the floral is the blending works better if you've got if they're still wet, especially if you dip your hand in it. So if there's some wetness still in that floral, it works a lot better. There we go. So I'm just colouring my flower. I've got a piece of kitchen roll, just as a lump there. There's no use at all to me. And let's do... This is a lovely, lovely floral to colour in. You know, if you want to use your Prisma pencils. Oh, it's lovely to colour in. And it gives you that wow factor when it's coloured in. So it's lovely. So let me just, where are you? Let's just try it on this half. Let's grab a little bit of blackberry. So I've got a little bit of blackberry. So we're just going to add a little bit of blackberry. Then I'm just going to pick up the turquoise and just add another layer of the turquoise. So I'm just really having a little bit of a play. Pick up a little bit of that lavender. So I'm just using the lavender just to blend into those colours. And I do like to sort of add a couple of layers because you get the true colour by adding those couple of layers. So we'll add some more of that later. So let's go round and just add a little bit of the turquoise. Just rinse that, take that off, and then I'll pick up a little bit of the lavender. can have several brushes if you wish on the go. It's entirely up to you. If you have them on the go. Nice clean water, not. But I like to make sure the paint is definitely wet when I start blending with the second colour. I do like to make sure that paint is wet. So we'll just take the lavender. Do you know, I always miss a petal on a floral. I do it every time, don't matter what I'm doing. I do it every single time. I'm going to turn my flower around just because it makes it a little easier. Just to colour in. And a fine brush for me personally, is a must. Really helps with some of that fine detail. I'm going to come in with that lavender. And you don't really need much paint at all. It's actually a little bit of water you need, especially when you're using, you know, rich paints like these, just so that you can blend those colours. And they blend a little bit easier when you've got a little bit of moisture on there. Okay, so I'm now going to rinse that. Then we'll pick up a little bit, like I just put my hand in that, a little bit of the blackberry. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of the blackberry. I'm going to add just a few of those lines in with the blackberry. So I'm taking the blackberry paint and I'm just skimming over there. It's entirely up to you whether you do that or not. I'm just adding, it's probably better if I turn it round because I'm not getting in the way of the paint then. And you can definitely see, yes. So it's entirely up to you if you want to add a little bit of those lines back in. And it's quite a bold flower, so it can take it. It really can take it. I'm going to add a little bit of this now, just to the edge. So I'm adding a little bit of the blackberry. There we go. And then I'm going to take, let's have some more water. I'm going to take some water, which is then tinted with that colour. And then I'm just going to blend that out a little bit. So I'm using water now. That tinted water with the purple. You can pick it up, look here, and create your own little bit of a tint. Look, just like that, with a bit of water. And just add a little bit of a tint, like so. So it's just, I'm just going over with that little bit of a tint. Can you see? So if you've got water, pick up a bit of that blackberry. Can you see you've just got a wash now? So you just use that wash and you can just add a little bit of a wash. You can take the excess off and then just wash over that. And it sort of dilutes that blue a little bit. There we go, just perfect. Now just put that on one side. Now let's grab another piece of 4x6. She says, I can't pick it up. So just grab the 4x6. And you've got your brayer and you've got all this water in this colour. Look at that. Bring this on your page, and I'm sorry, but look at that for a background. Nobody can tell me that that background isn't yummy. And that's just from leftover paint with a bit of water on. How yummy is that? So you've now got another background. So you've got this here. And you can see if there's anything there. Just grab another piece of card, Pink Frog Super Smooth card, 4x6 inches, and look, you've got another background. So don't bin anything, because it's worthwhile just picking that up, even when you've got lumps of paint, just brayer it out. There we go. So let's bring this back in. And really, when the paint was wet, if you give it a wipe, you can obviously keep, look, oh, come here, Tracy. You can obviously keep your brayer clean. If you don't want to wash it all the time, whilst the paint is still wet, look, you can give it a clean. But look at those colours on that brayer. How delicious are those? So I like to try and cover everything. So for those of you that don't like your brayer a mess, you can just come along, and as long as your paint is still wet, you can clean your brayer each time. It's not something I do, but I do like to show you that, look, you can clean it each time. You don't have to, but it's entirely up to you. Right, let's place that on one side. I've now got the florals, so let's give this a dry, because I don't want anything to mix with that. So we've given that a dry. I nearly dried my paintbrush then. So let's give this a little bit of a clean now. If you've got a jar of water, then brilliant. You can use your jar of water. Let's grab another piece of kitchen roll. We've only used one all the way through. Now, the other thing is, if you don't want your stamps, especially when you're using purples, very pigmented purples, if you don't want your stamp stained, then just wipe the purple off. It doesn't do your stamp any harm, but I know some of you don't like it to be stained, so you can just wipe that off, just to show that you don't have to keep that on there, because I do get asked these questions, so I do like to answer. I'm then going to take the Bleed Proof White, which is Dr. P.H. Martin's. Just a tiny bit of water. Oh, there's a tiny bit of water there. That's perfect. Don't need much. You don't want to dilute it too much. And I also don't like paint around the edge of my paintbrush. It's just me. So then I can just come in and just reiterate a little bit more of this area here, just so that that really pops and it's got a little bit more depth. So it just makes it look a little bit more dimensional. So it's a little bit like one of those jelly tots. It just looks a little bit more dimensional. Then you can come in and just add a little touch of white to your floral if you wish. Just little touches. You can use your Posca pen as well. It's entirely up to you what you use and how much white you add. But the fine paintbrush really is your friend. But you can bring this out a little bit more, just so that that is really dimensional. Really looks like it's sticking up a little bit. So it works quite nicely. And if you've got a fine paintbrush, you can then come in and just add your touches of white, should you wish. It's not a must. I just love a few touches of white. I just think it lifts everything a little bit. So just take your time and decide whether you want to add any of those touches of white. Now, if you don't want to, it doesn't matter, because we're going to leave a little bit of a white border. Let's just leave that there. So when I cut this out, I'm going to leave a little bit of a white border anyway. So I like to get rid of the excess card. It's just me. Just find it easier to cut out when I'm not trying to battle with too much card. There we go. So I'm going to leave a little bit of a white border. It's entirely up to you whether you do that. And obviously at this stage you can just fast forward my cutting out, because I do like to sort of take my time with this one, and especially because I'm quite proud of my journal pages. I do love the journal pages. Now, I'm a card turner, and what I mean by that is I turn the card to cut out. I don't try to turn my wrists into funny positions to try and cut the card out. It's what we all find easy, isn't it? Whichever's the easiest method for you. I'm using Pergamano scissors. I've used those for decades to do my fussy cutting. I just find it easier. They are sharp, right to the point. And I just find it a lot easier to get into those little nooks and crannies. There we go. And that little pop of white, just like the background on the page, just makes the whole floral pop a little bit. Now, because you've used paints, your Posca pen will work quite nicely on there if you want to use your Posca pen to add some touches of white. That'll work really nicely because Posca pen, in the end of the day, it's a paint pen. And it works really nicely with those acrylic paints. Now, because I've dried everything, I don't need to worry about my fingers being on there. It's not going to smudge, it's completely dry. But this is a lovely, bold floral. Works really nicely on that page. Very cold out, but the sun's shining and I can hear the birds singing, which is lovely. And this floral really makes a statement, even in its own right, even without a background. Now this will work on the, you know, the braid off piece that we've done. It will work on all the braid off pieces we've done. There we go. So you can see, let's bring my piece in. So it would work on all these braid pieces as well. You could quite easily use it on there, but you can see that the white, it looks almost like a jelly tot. We can also use your Posca pen. Let me just make sure that that's working. And you can come in and you can add some little bigger. You can add some bigger touches of white as well and add a little bit more dimension to that. But don't fill in all the little dark areas because that helps to make it look dimensional. You can also use your Posca pen just to add touches of white, particularly if your Posca pen is working. So you can use your Posca pen to add the touches of white because it'll work beautifully over the acrylic paint. So the Posca pen will work quite nicely over your paint, should you want to use that as well. I'm going to use that again in a minute anyway. So now if I bring this page in, because we've got those touches of white there, it really sort of helps. However, let me just, still got bits of wet Posca paint on there. You can also sort of bend your floral so it's got a little bit of shape, just so that it's not quite so flat, particularly if you were doing a card. Now what I'm going to do, can you see, we don't want to lose it too much in the background, but it works quite nicely. But let's just have, where are you now, number, there we are. I'm going to take SS25. And how much space have we got on there? Will it fit? No, I need another piece of, I always need another piece of card. Need another piece of card. Now I want to make sure that I'm using similar colours. So I'm going to use the lavender. Let's pick this, move this out of the way. So I'm going to take the lavender paint. There we go. So pick up this lavender. Now it's on the gold, that doesn't matter. I'm going to pick up a little bit. It doesn't matter if I go over the edges, don't worry about that. So don't forget this has got a little bit of the gold in as well. So this is a little bit of the lavender. And it's got a touch of gold in there as well. I'm going to cut this out. There is a die coming for this in January, towards the end of January. So you'll be able to cut this out. And what I'm doing is just playing at the moment, just to see how I like things. Let me show you, just so you can see how I'm playing. But look, instantly, like if you put it on here, it works quite nicely as well. So it sort of breaks up your background a little bit. So I want a little bit of text on there. So I want a little bit of text on that. So I'm going to use, where are you, 45. It'll be somewhere at the back. So I'm going to use TE45. It's got a lovely text stamp on there. And then I'm going to take that Monarch ink. Let me just, don't like any moisture on there. So let's take that Monarch ink. And then I'm just going to add little touches of the ink. You don't have to be perfect, you're just adding little touches of that ink. And the Monarch works quite nicely. Let me just see if that's enough. So I'm just going to place this. I am going to faff a little bit. Because that's who I am. I'm going to add that, yes, just there, like so. So let's stick that down because I like that. Okay. Oh, I'll just drop it now. And the good thing is I can just place this down, but don't sort of press it down, and sort of place this around about there. That's it. So let's just use my kitchen roll just to press that down, just so I don't smudge anything. There we go. Because my floral will just go here, like so. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Just lovely. The only problem is that isn't straight. Sorry, I'm too particular. That isn't quite straight and I can't have it like that. At least I know where it goes now. It just needs to be straight. In camera it might not look like I've done much, but I could see it wasn't straight. And that drives me mad. So let's put a little bit of adhesive there. There we go. That's better. That's it. So I can put my floral just here. So let's stick our floral down, and I'm just going to stick in the middle here and then down the stem, just so then I can have some of the petals just sticking up, just to give that a little bit more life. So let's just hold that down a little bit just to make sure that sticks on there. Now you've got these, our pretend washies, haven't we here? So you can pick a little bit. Which one do I fancy? What about that one with a bit of turquoise on there? So now I can take this. There's no way I'm wasting that, I'm telling you now. So let's just place that down there. Now it wouldn't matter if it was masking tape because you wouldn't see it with the paint on there. Then I'm going to add, I would use a matte medium, Distress Collage medium, just to stick it down. Just to add a little bit of that. Now, you don't want that to move, so what I'm going to do is, where's my collage medium? There you go. I've got my Distress Collage medium. The only reason I can't get it undone is because my silly thumbs. So I'm going to just dip my finger in, and I'm just going to just put that around there. There you go. That'll just protect that. And I can literally dry that with my heat tool. And it'll just protect my own handmade washi. And I'm definitely going to use those pieces on a card on these bits. I'm definitely going to use these pieces because they're just too nice to waste. There we go. So then I'm going to take my enormous Inktense pencil, and I'm just going to add a little bit of shading around here, like so. A little bit of shading there. Let's take our brush that I can no longer see because it is totally buried, and it'll be covered in white paint. It's very pigmented, the bleed proof white, so having a jar of water is very handy. And you know by now the reason most of the time I don't have a jar of water is because I'm too dangerous. Now we've got acrylic paint on here, and this will blend out beautifully with the acrylic paint. The Inktense work beautiful on acrylic paints. Let's just blend those out. There we go. I just love how you can go from a little background and you can quite easily create a lovely project. I want to add some splatters of white. I'm loving these gold touches. Look at them. Oh, it really makes it. So let's just add. Oh yes, you're splattering rather nicely. Absolutely beautifully. There we go. Then I can spend a few moments deciding what I actually want as a word. Just while that dries a little bit, so we can put our floral black. No idea where the floral is. Here it is, buried. So we can just place this back. Honestly, I've got things everywhere. Don't pull your stamps by the finest area. You're just going to stretch them. There you go. Today is full of possibilities to write. Now, if you wanted to, you could stamp onto your washi. You know, you could stamp on the washi here and add it here if you wished as well. So there's just exactly so many possibilities. But I'm going to stamp onto the page. So let's just open this out. Let's grab a smaller acrylic block. And I'm going to grab my black ink. Goodness knows where I've put that. Did I put it back? Let's move the Monarch. And let's grab the Nocturne. And I'll just give that a few moments just to sit on there. There we go. Today is full of possibilities. And you can see there, I've landed on a little bit of Posca. There we go. Today is full of possibilities. There we go. And then I'm just going to go back. And we've got our text stamp here. Let's move that out of the way. The one we used just on the background here. And I'm going to take a little bit of the Monarch again. Take that Monarch. And then I can just add a few little touches of stamping just here and there. Nothing sort of too overpowering. It's just little touches. Just to my background. Just in a few little places, just to give a little bit more detail. Just a few little touches. Again, not too many. You don't want to really overpower that. And I'm then going to add a little chicken, because I can, because it's part of this stamp set, TE48. So on TE48 you can see you've got the little chickens. So let's take that again. This time we don't want that Monarch, do we? Just bring in the little chicken. And I don't really want to stamp over any of that Distress Collage medium. So I'm just going to give this a few seconds just to absorb onto there. There we go. And then we'll make sure that he is grounded a little bit, because we don't want him just sitting there. Don't know whether there's any moisture in this. No. Just so he's grounded. There we go. Do you know? Let's have a little bit more. That's it. I have to say I do like those touches of gold. Let's bring this in. Those touches of gold really do make that just wonderful. And I love how we can use our little bit of washi as well. Now I'm not adding any shading under this because I want it that starkness against all this detail. So I hope you've enjoyed that. and I hope you'll give that page a go. And don't forget, you've got all your backgrounds and your washi that you can add to these pieces of card. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Lots of love, everyone. Don't forget, you can get 10% off your basket with December 10 on purchases £20 and over, or you can have 50% off workshop using code workshop50. So lots of love, everyone. Bye for now.